before last night's debate was over, fact-checkers got to work, a theme Mitt Romney jumped on.
Mr. President, you're entitled as a president to your own airplane and to your own house, but not to your own facts.
Well, both sides were talking about that last night. Joining me now, Republican National Committee Communications Director Sean Spicer and Democratic National Committee Communications Director Brad Woodhouse. And we're going to go into some of the specifics of what was said last night. But, Brad, let me start with you, and I want to ask both of you this. Analysts say that these debates, in a battle between style versus substance, style wins out in the end. How much does fact-checking matter?
Well, look, I think it matters. I mean, what I think you saw last night happen with Mitt Romney was he took some short-term gain for some long-term pain. I mean, look, Chris, last night, if Mitt Romney was talking, he was lying. He lied about his tax plan, which cost $5 trillion. His campaign has never disputed that his tax plan cost $5 trillion until last night. He lied about Medicare and what his plan would do to hurt current beneficiaries.
We're going to get into some of those specifics.
So here's my point, Chris. Here's my point, Chris, is that I don't believe that style will win out over substance in the long run. One reason that Mitt Romney has suffered.
Let me ask the same question. Let me ask the same question to Sean.
He doesn't tell the truth.
Sean, style versus substance.
Right. I think last night was a clear choice. And on style and on substance, or any other measure that you want to judge it, I think Mitt Romney laid out a very clear plan for this country and did it in a way that resonated with most Americans. I think, on the other hand, it wasn't a question of style that the president lacked. It was a lacking of policies and a record over the last 4 years that he was able to pivot to. And I think the problem is that at some point in the middle of the debate last night, the president finally realized, wait, I've actually been president for the last 4 years. I can't bash the last 4 years because I was actually in charge. I had a Democratic Congress, and I don't have much to show for it. So, I mean, I think that's the biggest problem, is it wasn't just a style thing. It actually was a very clear substance issue that the president lacked last night.
All right, let's sort of truth test one of the big issues of this campaign, the deficit. MSNBC's Richard Louie, you're our truth squad.
Good morning to you,
Chris. What about the deficit?
Yeah, well, Chris, this is what the president said his plan would cut, the deficit. He said it'd cut by $4 trillion. Take a listen.
So I put forward a specific $4 trillion deficit reduction plan. It's on the website. You can look at all the numbers, what cuts we make and what revenue we raise.
Well, Chris, the president is counting money saved by letting the Bush tax cuts expire for people making more than $250,000 a year. But he's also counting $1 trillion in savings by drawing down the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And, Chris, nonpartisan budget experts call that a gimmick because those wars were deficit financed in the first place.
All right, back to our panel. Brad, your thoughts on the deficit?
Well, look, first of all, you won't be surprised that I disagree with that analysis. I mean, the president, you know, the savings from the wars is actually true and important. I mean, you know, Mitt Romney, Chris, wants to spend $2 trillion on the Defense Department the Pentagon hadn't asked for, and he wants to go back to war in Iraq. So, I mean, those should be concerns of the American people. Those would explode the deficit. And he didn't lay out one single detail about how, other than going after Big Bird, about how he would deal with the deficit last night. Not one single detail.
What were the details there, Sean?
Okay. Hold on, Chris. Wait, hold on a second. This is the same president who attacks. Hold on, Brad. Quiet down. I actually am going to make a point that's factual here. You might want to take note.
Here's the detail about the president in the same debate laid out by Mitt Romney.
The president. Okay, Brad. The president said that he wants to achieve savings through drawing down the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. But it's also the same president who says that these wars were not paid for. They were paid for with borrowed money from China. So if you're borrowing money from China to pay for it, and then you say, I'm actually going to have deficit savings from money that's borrowed, as Richard pointed out, it doesn't make any sense. The other issue is that 4 years ago, when the president stood on the stage with Senator McCain, he laid out a plan and said, I'm going to cut the deficit in half by the end of my first term. Not only was it not cut in half, but he added $5.4 trillion, so we have a $16 trillion deficit now. Or, excuse me, a $16 trillion.
I want to do another fact check here.
There is no credibility on this issue.
Hold on, guys.
Zero credibility.
The third rail of politics also came up last night. Here's what Mitt Romney said on Medicare.
What I support is no change for current retirees and near retirees to Medicare, and the president supports taking $716 billion out of that program.
Richard, what about